Adrienne Klasa, editor of This is Africa at the Financial Times, joins me now in the studio. That issue of engaging with the West, it's interesting that one of the statements that's come out from, for instance, the US Embassy in Harare was that whatever short-term arrangements the government may establish, the path forward must lead to free, fair and inclusive elections. And we have heard now that Mnangagwa from ZANU-PF, we've heard that he's going to be in office within 48 hours and serve the rest of Mugabe's term until elections in 2018. So I suppose the international community, at least the fact that elections which were planned for 2018 are still part of the plan, that's a good sign, isn't it?
I would imagine so. I mean, it does establish at least the beginnings of a timeline for some sort of democratic transition. And I'm sure that there might be those within sort of various factions of ZANU-PF or in the public in Zimbabwe who would like to see elections happen more quickly. At the same time, I mean, witnessing what happened in Kenya, which granted was a different set of political circumstances, but where an election was rushed in order to get a credible result, perhaps taking the time until, the end of Mugabe's current term will allow them to do that.
And do you think, I mean, Mnangagwa, as we heard just now, was part of the inner circle, wasn't he? So what chances of him leading a democratic transition?
I mean, again, time will tell. Mnangagwa was, Mugabe's right-hand man for many, many years. They fought side by side in the War of Liberation against British colonial rule, and he was also known as an enforcer of many of Mugabe's policies. So up until now, he hasn't really been viewed as this democratic figure for change. That being said, I mean, the fact that we're now stepping outside of the Mugabe family, not seeing a transition of power to Mugabe's younger wife, Grace Mugabe, does signal that at least that there's there's a desire within ZANU-PF to see a more clean-cut political transition take place that wouldn't fully be sort of establishing a family dynasty.
And what do you think the fate will be of the Mugabes themselves?
It's a complicated question. Again, we will have to see. I would imagine, again, that the Mugabes and Robert Mugabe especially is a very savvy political operator. He took, he was expected to resign after his party kicked him out as its head 2 days ago, and he didn't. There were intervening 2 days in which he was locked in negotiations with, the leaders of his party, as well as emissaries from the Southern African Development Community, the regional organization around him. So I would imagine he has negotiated some sort of exit package for himself, some sort of protections and some way of retaining some of his wealth. But we will see as this transition unfolds.
And at the end of the Mugabe era, what do you think that his legacy is? I mean, in terms of the economy, what do you think needs to happen now to try and put Zimbabwe back on its feet?
I mean, Mugabe has a very mixed legacy in some ways. I mean, he was a liberation hero. He fought against colonialism. He was well educated. He was very well regarded when he initially came to power in 1980. However, since then, he has developed an oppressive regime. He has silenced political opponents. He has silenced activists. He has silenced journalists. He has also left an economy in tatters, one that has been isolated for many, many years now from the international community and from international markets.
And that was one of the things that he had that relationship with the West, which was very antagonistic, wasn't it? And he was essentially blaming the West for the woes of Zimbabwe, kind of blaming them essentially for kind of plotting against him. That was always how it was described. Do you think that Mnangagwa will take a different tack?
I would imagine, again, difficult to say at this point, but there is an opening now. You clearly have sort of partners in the West and internationally and within the region who are willing to engage with Zimbabwe, who want to see it open back up. And clearly, as you see from many of the demonstrators in the street, they want to see the economy back on track. They want to see conditions improve. So if Mnangagwa wants to fulfill a democratic mandate, I would imagine that re-engagement with the rest of the world would be a large part of that.
Adrienne Klasa from the Financial Times, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Thank you.